Jai Hind all of you. Myself Nishu Bansal from CSC department. We are going to do the second lecture on the image processing KCS 062. So let's start. The first step we will do is we will see the digital image definition from mathematical point of view. Basically, when we talk about an image, as we know, the screen is divided into pixels, as we have seen in the first lecture. For say this is my image. So here the small box, this small box is called pixel. These pixels, they have the coordinate value that is called the spatial coordinates. So each pixel is recognized by a coordinate value that is x comma y. Now what we have is, for this pixel we store a value that is called the amplitude for this particular pixel. The amplitude is nothing but the intensity or the gray level. As we know that when we talk about the grayscale images, we have the values for the intensity from 0 to 255. That is, the pixels can take any of these values. Grayscale is basically the color between the black and the white shades. And when we talk about the color images, we have the values from 0 to 2 to the power 24 minus 1. These values would take the other colors for say black, then blue, green, red, like these, all these colors. So actually what we are storing at this particular x comma y, this address is the f of x comma y, that is the color intensity value. Because as we know that all these pixels would be discrete, or we can say they would be finite values. So this x, y and f, they take finite values. These are also finite quantities. That is, an image can be represented by discrete plus finite values. Now let's see further content, that is the fundamental steps in the digital image processing. The various steps that we are including in the digital image processing, that is, first we will see the problem domain that we are talking about. Image can be related to various domains. It can be, for say, we may be talking about the aerial images, which may be covering the various astronomical images of the satellites and the higher above the origin. Then there may be images which may be related to the, for say, medical field. They may be the X-rays or MRI images. So problem domain defines the problem to which we are considering in case of the image processing. So the first step is the image acquisition. After the image acquisition, we will discuss each step one by one. First, let's see the name of the steps, what we are doing in the digital image processing. Then next is the image enhancement. Then we have is the image restoration. Then color image processing. Then wavelet and multi-resolution processing. Then compression. Then morphological processing, segmentation, representation and description, object recognition, and all these, the data that belongs to all these steps together would create the knowledge base. Now the output of the steps from image acquisition till the morphological processing, these outputs are basically the images. That is, input is the image and we are getting the output also as the image. But the steps from segmentation till this object recognition, the output of this particular steps would be the various image attributes which are of our concern for this particular problem. So let's see the first step. The first step is the image acquisition. So image acquisition is how we are acquiring the images. For say the image, we know that the first step when we talk about the images, we require a camera. The camera is here, they can be the sensors, we call them. That is, for say I want an image related to the traffic over the highway. So we may have different camera sensors deployed at various angles capturing the images. So these images would be capturing the data related to the various traffic on the highway. So then we digitalize it if the output of the camera or the sensor is not already in the digital form. For that purpose, we require is the analog to the digital converter. When the cameras they capture the image, they give you the analog image. Then we require a device that would convert it into a digital image. Let's see the diagram for the imaging system. So here what we have is this particular component is the imaging system, that is our camera. Here we have is the scene element, that is the object or a particular scene that we want to capture. So here the illumination source is the light source that would be coming and falling onto the object on each and every point on the object that we want to capture into an image. So here the rays that are falling on this particular object, the image, this would be reflected from the surface of the object. The light would be reflected and it would pass through the lens of the imaging system, and this would go and strike onto the position that is called, this particular is a projection plane. Projection plane is the place where the image would be formed. Just like the negatives we used to have in the analog systems in the cameras where the image is being formed. So similarly we have a image plane. So this particular image that we get is the analog image of each and every point. So the light source would be coming onto each and every point on the surface of the element, and the light would be reflected from each point and would go through the imaging system lens and it would strike the projection plane. So this is how we will get the image. Fine. So this image is basically an analog image. Now what we need to do is, before we go further processing in the DIP, we need to convert it into a digital image. So for the digital image, we will use two processes that we will discuss further. That is the sampling and the quantization. Sampling is basically how many coordinates or how many points we want to consider in this particular analog image. This is a continuous image. We would take only certain pixels or certain points of this particular analog image, and that would be plotted as a digital image, and then we will assign the intensity values to those pixels or points that we have selected. So in the sampling we consider certain points, and in the quantization we assign the intensity or the set of values that would be used for this particular image. So this is how we will convert from analog to digital image. So this would be the final output of the imaging system. Then the second step that we use after we get the digital image is the image enhancement. Enhancement is basically a very important step when we work in the image processing. It's like a pre-processing of the images that we get from after acquiring it through the cameras. So we manipulate an image so that the result is more suitable than the original for specific application. So depending upon the application requirement, we convert it into a form. So the basic idea behind the enhancement technique is we want to bring out the details, that is very fine details. If they are hidden, we want to bring out them, or we may be highlighting certain features of interest in the image. So these are the various works that we perform in the enhancement, or we may be do the contrast stretching also, that is we may be differentiating the objects from each other using the contrast stretching. Then third fundamental subject in the in this particular DIP is the image restoration. Image restoration, basically it is used to improve the appearance of an image. That is, we may be having a very distorted image and we may be trying to improve its quality so that it's more resemblance to the original image. When we take the aerial image of the through the satellite of the celestial bodies, in that case also most of the images, they may be having periodic noise. That is, the image may be having the noise in such a form that it may be distributed over all the pixels in the image. So such kind of images, they need to be restored back so that the actual objects of interest are visible. So this is basically, this particular restoration is a mathematical or a probabilistic model based step. This is different from the enhancement because enhancement is, on the other hand, is more or less human subjective preference. That is, a particular image which is of good quality for me may not be of good quality to someone else. So this is, it depends upon the person to person perception, what is their preference of a good quality image. So enhancement can be depending upon the way we look at the image, and restoration would always give you the same result because it depends upon the mathematical models. Then the fourth step is the color image processing. Initially, when the people were working in the image processing, most of the research the people were doing, they were working on the black and white images, or more or less we can say. Then further they started working on the grayscale images. But after that, they started working on the original colored images. So color image processing is famous nowadays because we have so much of advancement in the color images. So people have started using different color models and how we can model it in the digital domain using the color images. So fourth step is we work directly on the color images. Then step 5 is wavelets and multi-resolution processing. Basically, now when we talk about the images, it may be that we have captured the image through our mobile camera, through different cameras, and we may be displaying it on different systems. So now we need to process it according to different resolutions, depending upon the different devices. So in this stage, an image is represented in various degrees of resolution. So image is divided into smaller regions for data compression and for parametrical representation. Step 6 is compression. Compression basically we use to reduce the size of the images. When we create a data set of the image, basically it is very heavy data set, and to store that particular data and to transmit that data is very difficult. So we use the compression technique for reducing the requirement of storing the images. It is very important stage because it is very necessary to compress data for internet use. So we use the various formats such as JPG format images. They do, before we store this particular image in this particular format, they automatically reduce the size of the images, and the quality is also quite good for the internet use, so that it is not much different from the originally captured image. Then step 7 is morphological processing. Now this particular stage is where we have actually begun the processing into a more approach, that is we have started using more mathematical tools. It is used for extracting the components of the image. That is, here we define the shapes and the size of the various objects within the image. So it is useful in the representation and description of the shapes. So this particular step has come from the botany, that is where people used to study about the shape and size of the plants, their leaves. So that concept is being applied in the image processing, where we study how the shape and structure can be extracted from the image. Step 8, segmentation. This is one of the most important and one of the most difficult step, because the accurate segmentation is more likely that we are able to recognize, and it's the more successful we are able to do the image processing. So in this particular stage, an image is partitioned into its objects. That is, we subdivide the image into smaller subparts, and then as I told you that it is the most difficult task in the DIP. It is a process which takes a lot of time for the successful solution of the imaging problems, which requires objects to identify individually. So the idea is basically how we are able to segment the entire image into different sub images, and we are able to extract the information in such a way that we are able to differentiate the different objects within the image. Once we have segmented the image, step 9 is representation and description. Representation is make a decision whether the data output of the segmentation is the row of pixels from the points within the objects. So now we need to define a boundary, basically represent it, and or as a complete region. So it is almost always follows the output of the segmentation stage. So there are two ways how we can represent. One is a boundary representation, second is a region representation. So in the case of the boundary representation, the focus on the external shape characteristics is being given. That is, we look for the corners, how we within the set of row images, for say I have this set of images like this pixels we have, how we are able to connect them. That is called the representation. So first we look for the corners, inflections where they are deviating. So these all would help us in finding the boundary. Then we have is the region representation. So here the focus is on the internal properties. That is, we look for the texture, we look for the skeleton shape. So this would give you the region representation. Then next is the description. Description is also called feature selection, which deals with extracting attributes that result in some information of interest. That is, now after we have got the description, after we have got the representation, now we try to describe the objects so that we are able to distinguish between the various objects. For say in a scene we have a human and a cat. So we will give the description to we will say 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, and how the shape of the face is there, the body structure of that would consider the features of the human. And for the cat we will go for is for say 4 legs and the face structure and a tail behind. That would give the description of that attribute would tell the description of the cat. Step 10 is recognition and the interpretation. Now, finally, we are assigning the labels to the object. Label is, if this is a particular description through the image that we got, now we assign the label whether it is a human or a cat. That is called recognition, based upon the information provided by its description. Step 11 is knowledge base. Now, after we have worked on various data from this particular domain, the intermediate data that we received would form the knowledge regarding this particular domain. So this would be stored in the form of a knowledge database. So further, if people start working in the same domain, they may refer to the previous knowledge gathered from that particular data. So let's see some of the applications of the image processing. First is we can use it for the office automation. Office automation such as we can use it for the optical character recognition. Document processing can be done very easily. Then cursive script recognition. People may be writing different kind of cursive, handwritings may be different. So to recognize different handwritings, we may make a application in the image processing. Then logo and icon recognition, so that we can identify a fake logo from the original logo. There also we can go for the image processing. Then industrial automation, automatic inspection systems. Like in this particular case, for say I need to, for example, in the Coca-Cola bottle, there certain companies, they have a standard that is up to what level they need to fill the bottles. Now if manually if we are doing this, that is a person is checking the level up to which the bottle is being filled, it would take a lot of time. So what we can do is we can capture the images of the various products that are manufactured, and we can inspect them for their quality and the standard of the company. Then robotics, we can work in the office in the industrial automation, like robots can be guided through the images how they have to work within an industry. Process control application, the various processes that are followed in a industry that can be controlled, that is whatever checks we want to perform, that can be controlled and checked using the images. For say, if I need to check that for people working on a particular component within an organization, in an industry, whether for say they have worn the helmet or not, applications are being made so that they can be automatically checked using the images that all the people, they are wearing the helmets in this or not, so that no calamity can occur, and various processes can also be automated, plus a quality check can be done using the image processing. Oil and natural gas exploration, there are certain areas where it is not possible for an exploration team to reach. So we can have the satellite images of the areas, and we can find out that whether this is a prone area where there can be the oil refinery or not. Then biomedical, this is one of the most prominent areas where people are using the image processing, that is X-ray image analysis, MRI scans. MRI images of the brain can be used for detecting the early stage, we can detect the brain hemorrhage or the brain tumors. Then routine screening of the plant samples, various plant diseases can be routinely checked using the images, that what is the stages of their disease. Leaves, by seeing the leaf structure and the shape and the decoloration of the leaves. Mass screening of medical images such as chromosome slides for detection of various diseases. Now basically there are certain hereditary diseases. We can check the chromosome slides and we can see if a person is prone to get the disease if their parents are already having those disease. So this is also a very good area where people are working using the image processing. Remote sensing, as I told, that natural resources survey and management can be done. Plus one of the most important area nowadays, environment and the pollution control. So basically when we are sitting at one particular area, we can look into the pollution structure of that of any other area, and we can control before the pollution is being occurring or not. Then monitoring the traffic along the roads, docks and airfields. Criminology, fingerprint identification. A criminal can be detected using the fingerprint identification. Human face registration and matching. Forensic investigation are some of the areas where images are being used. Astronomy and space application, restoration of the images suffering from geometric and photometric distortion. So when we are capturing the aerial images, they may be distorted and we can restore them back using the image processing before we apply further processing. Computing close-up pictures of planetary structures can also be done. Then meteorology, we can detect the short-term weather forecast can be done. Then long-term climate changes detections from the satellite and the other remote sensing data can be used so that the calamities can be avoided. Then cloud pattern analysis can be done so that there may not be certain calamities in a particular area because of the bursting of the clouds. Then information technology, video conferencing, then facsimile image transmission, all this makes use of the image processing. Entertainment and consumer electronics, HDTV is a very good example of where we use the image processing. Then multimedia and video editing, they all comes under the category of image processing. Various tools like people use the Photoshop, they are used and various video editing tools, they all come under the category of image processing. Then military applications, we can have the guided missiles and detections, target identification, such as in Uri film, people, they have identified the targets using the images that is being captured through the Garud. Then navigation of pilotless vehicles, security measures, recognition of human objects and verification of the claimed identities can be done based upon the various multimodals such as face, iris, palm, ear and fingerprints. So, let's see the components of an image processing system. That is what all is required when we are creating an entire application in image processing. First, we know that we need a image sensors. That is, we need to deploy the sensors at various locations where we want to do the image processing. So, that would be the problem domain where we will be deploying the image sensors. Then we need specialized image processing hardwares. That is the hardware which would process the data. Automatic ALU based plus the logical based hardwares are required for processing. We need a dedicated hardware which would be entirely doing the image processing. Then we need hard copies for this. We need different computer setups for dedicated for the image processing. Then to display various types of images, we need different graphical interfaces, and mass storage is required for storing the entire database. Then last is the image processing softwares, such as the softwares for finding the different segmentation tools we need, and then for recognizing the different objects within the image. So these are the various general purpose DIP components that are required for the image processing. Thank you so much for this particular lecture.